Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
It definitely is. Well, let's take it down before YouTube takes us down, just for appreciating good composers. Welcome back, guys. It is episode 191 of Box Office Bingers. If you haven't figured it out, that is the song from the Killers of the Flower Moon trailer. Matt, can you give us some background? You right before the show, you gave us some information about that.
Yes, the song is called Stadium Powwow. What was it? The Holocon? The Hallucination?
Hallucination?
Nation. Featuring who's the other person?
Blackbear?
I'm about to play the song myself. Blackbear, yeah. Featuring Blackbear. Yeah, that's a bop. I don't remember ever seeing that in the trailer himself. Robert. Now they go back. Robert. His name is Robert. Robbie Robertson is the composer for our Killers of the Flower Moon and the movie that we are reviewing for this week. He did a great job with the score. I will open the top. The score was pretty good for this movie. But if you're unaware of what this movie is, Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by the Academy Award winner director Martin Scorsese. Now, we've talked to him. We've talked about him numerous times. Unfortunately, not about his work, but the things that he's with comments on how the industry is and Marvel in particular. And he has some words to say about that. But for today, we're going to put that on the table. We're going to put that aside, and we're actually going to go over his work. And we have 4, but now we're going to do this again.
Your favorite movie?
About my favorite movie, yes. If for any reason you don't know who Martin Scorsese is, he is the director behind Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Casino, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, the Wolf of Wall Street, and there's a lot.
Didn't he also do Cape Fear?
Yes, he did. You're right. He did
movie.
do Cape Fear. That was a good movie. Work is legendary beyond belief, and he's getting up there in age, and he's still making movies. So good for him. Good for still contributing to cinema, no matter what you have to say about it. The movie. So Martin Scorsese wrote and directed this movie. The movie was also written by Academy Award winner Eric Roth, who's behind his work and his words are behind Forrest Gump, Ali, Munich, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, A Star is Born, and Dune Part 1. I guess they call it Dune, but I guess it's Part 1.
It's Dune Part 1.
Ernesto, for bonus points, it is on the screen right now. It's on our rundown. Can you name the Academy Award that Martin Scorsese won? He's only won one for directing which movie you see on. It's listed there. I'm curious if you can try to.
Are you gonna put me on the spot? Like, I think. I think it's between 2. I wanted Wolf of Wall Street.
What's the other one?
The Departed.
And you will be correct on that.
The Departed was the one that won.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
the part that won, yeah. He won. I think that won for Best Picture as well, but he won for Best Director. And then for even more bonus points, I think this one's pretty easy. Eric Roth, also an Academy Award winner. Which one do you think he won?
Ooh,
the Academy Award.
Forrest Gump. Yeah.
Of course, yes.
My second guess would have been The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Probably would have been my second guess.
Yeah. But needless to say, these two creators are no stranger to the Academy Awards, and I think it's safe to say, Ernesto, no matter what our feelings are toward, and we're going to be talking about our thoughts of Killers of the Flower Moon later on in the podcast, later on in the show. But I think it's safe to say that the Academy is going to be looking at this movie during the awards.
Well, they look at any time.
Oh, yeah.
His movies,
true.
90%. I mean, I'd have to look, but I mean, more or less, his movies are always nominated.
Yes. Yeah. We have the cast of Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Jesse Plemons, who I think most of them are also no strangers to the Academy. Yeah, this feels Oscars all over the place, and it is being hot season for for all the awards that's coming out. So this is not going to be the last time we talk about it. But before we dive into all of Ernesto, we got some news to talk about.
First and foremost, Gargoyles is coming back to Disney Plus. The beloved animated series that originally aired for 3 seasons from 1994 to 1997 is getting rebooted as a live-action TV series for Disney Plus. Gary Dauberman, showrunner for Swamp Thing and screenwriter for Annabelle 1 through 3, The Nun, and It Chapter 1 and 2, will serve as writer, producer, and showrunner for the new series, alongside James Wan, who will serve as executive producer under his Atomic Monster production company. I'm very excited for this. Gargoyles was like one of my favorite cartoons growing up, and hopefully Keith David will be involved, because he was the voice of the original Gargoyle, of like the main character. His name escapes me right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's involved, or them not reaching out to him, or any of the voice cast for that matter, to continue to come back to reprise their roles. I think coming back as for a live action show is fantastic. I love this idea. It's weird because it's not many things that I want to like. I mean, Disney, as always, has just been going down the train of just rebooting everything. But this one, I could stand by this one. This one, I feel like there's been enough time, and they haven't really touched this property for a long time. So I think it's safe to say, yeah, we can definitely go after this and reboot it. I think there's other properties I'm like, it's too soon. We shouldn't do that too soon. But I think this one.
So I'm same. I just looked up the original voice cast. So yes, Keith David, he played Goliath. Let's see any other that I recognize. Tim Curry, J.D. Daniels. That's the only two. That's the only ones I recognize. But I mean, Keith David is a voice acting legend. So I'm totally looking forward to this.
Yeah, hopefully they don't screw it up, but James Wan is involved with it, which is also quite interesting that we talked about not too long ago that James Wan and his Atomic Monster production company signed an exclusive deal to work with Universal and with Blumhouse, movies there. But I guess also within that contract, I guess you're free to work independently on other projects, and it seems like this is one of them. So that's good for him to work out a deal that he left Warner Brothers, made a deal with Universal, and still able to work on other projects now for Disney.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good for him. I know his next film that we get to put our eyes on is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, I believe it's called.
Lost Kingdom, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to see the first one.
It's really not bad. I know a lot of people are worried about Aquaman 2 because it's been in production hell for forever, and now it's under the Shazam, The Flash, and Blue Beetle weren't all that great. So,
and not only that, this whole Amber Heard mess.
Yeah.
And plus, there was celebrity gossip news these past couple weeks about their set on behavior. Jason Momoa's set on set behavior, like coming dressed as Johnny Depp to set and like reportedly being drunk. Like, It's like great. Yeah. I can't wait to watch this train wreck.
You're not. I mean, you're not
right.
Wrong.
It feels like that. It feels like that movie from last year. This is like that movie that last year. Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh, Don't Worry, Darling. Yes, this feels like a huge train wreck of a movie just like that. You know what I'm here for? Technically, the movie under the Snyderverse and whatever DC is now. This, you know what? Why not? We'll see. There's been so much drama around it, and also just DC in general as James Gunn is prepping for his own universe. So why not just go out with a bang and everything just going? For James Wan, I trust his work. I'm really sleeping on like his work. Like I hadn't seen a lot of his horror movies. Maybe next year. I know that the Halloween spooky horror season's kind of winding down. I'm gonna things which I'll talk about later, but The Conjuring, all that stuff I haven't gotten to. So maybe next year that would be a priority, is to maybe catch some of the more modern stuff that's beginning a lot of popularity.
That would have been a good one for you to explore, like especially during spooky season.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but maybe I'm hoping that if they get the ball rolling on this, maybe by fall of next year, I think Gargoyles will be a great spooky-ish show to watch during this season. It depends, but I can see it as being spooky, depending how they do it. But yeah, I remember loving the show growing up, so I'm happy that they are revisiting this, and hopefully they do it justice. From that, James McAvoy, did you meet him at MegaCon, or was it just David?
I met him with David, and it was
you met him with David.
It was not a good experience. Did not leave a good taste in my mouth.
I do remember that. Well, he is set to make his directorial debut on a movie about the true story of two Scottish lads from Dundee industry by adopting American accents and pretending to be established Californian rappers. Syllablum and Brains.
Syllablum Brains.
Syllablum Brains. Yeah. In the late 90s, Gavin Bain and Billy Boyd had their musical ambitions consistently ridiculed accents for the wrong accents. So they went for broke and reinvented themselves as Californian rappers. The current movie will show how the duo re-recorded their own tracks with fake accents and turned up in London claiming to be an established duo in the Cali scene, as well as childhood friends with Eminem. They quickly bagged themselves a record deal, a hefty sum of advances, and an appearance on MTV until it all came crashing down. In an interview with Deadline, McAvoy said, in part, "I can't wait to bring this absolutely incredible and very Scottish and Californian story to the cinema. Using Scottish talent behind and in front of the camera is something I'm passionate about, and I'm over the moon to be making my directorial debut in my homeland." I think there's a lot of cool things about this. One, it's always nice to see an actor turn director. We see that with Michael B. Jordan with the Creed franchise, and it made sense that way. And for an actor to make his directorial debut on a passion project, I think those are also hopefully turn out a good product. He didn't say that he was going to be starring in this, but it may or may not seem that way. But I don't know. I think it was a short that we had watched. I believe it was also from Scotland.
Oh, it's those two brothers.
About like the two brothers. Yeah, I feel like that's.
But I remember. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot what it was called, but I don't think we see a lot of like Scottish movies, and so I think this is gonna be something good. The Banshees of Inisherin, was that Scottish?
I think that was Irish.
Irish, okay, yeah. But no, I think there's a lot of promise here, and I'm always down for actor turned director, and maybe he could be a good one. I like his work, especially in the X-Men franchise and what he did with Split.
I think he's a fantastic actor. I wish my experience with him was better, but I can separate, the actor from the person. So, because professionally, I love his work. Like you were just saying, Split, everything he did for X-Men, so I'm down to see what he can do. You know, it'll probably be good. So
yeah, I'm hoping it is.
yeah. Moving on. Daniel Radcliffe is going to be an executive. He's going to be executive producing a new HBO documentary about his former Harry Potter stunt double, David Holmes, who was left paralyzed after an accident on the set of Deathly Hallows Part 1. The documentary, titled David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived, will tell the story of the prodigious team gymnast who starred as Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double on the first 6 Harry Potter films until a tragic accident occurred on set, leaving him paralyzed with a debilitating spinal injury. The documentary will share more about his experiences living with adversity and growing up, presenting candid personal footage shot over the last decade, behind-the-scenes material from Holmes' stunt work, scenes of his current life, and intimate interviews with David Radcliffe, friends, family, and former crew. I think this is going to be an incredible documentary. Not even just for the award season. I just think on a personal level, like maybe Daniel Radcliffe feels almost personally responsible. You know what I mean? Like obviously he didn't force him to do it, but just like somebody who's supposed to be playing as you because they don't want you to do it, and look what happened to them. Like,
right.
So, I want to watch this because I'm curious about Daniel Radcliffe's view on stunt work in general, having gone through this experience, even just as a bystander, and we'll get to see what David's life is going to be like. I think this has potential to be an incredible documentary.
Absolutely. I saw this story and I was like, damn, this looks really good. This sounds really good. I heard that I'm not sure what it's called, but I believe I heard like David Holmes has a podcast, and Daniel Radcliffe has been on it several times talking about various things. And yeah, I think this is just a really, as fans of Harry Potter, right? And as fan of movies, a thing that kind of falls short and we don't really think about are the stunt doubles and the sacrifices and the risk they take every day to make sure that their race is, not doing those dangerous stunts. And they are doing the dangerous stunts to make the movies that we love look so good. So the fact that now this is not only putting a highlight on his life, and also for anyone who's a Harry Potter fan, this is just some great, interesting things. Any background stuff, like if we can get hyped around the Harry Potter reunion that aired on HBO Max like 2 years ago, and because the crowd, like all the cast is getting back together, and if we could for an hour about, I remember when I did that one thing, I think everyone can get behind someone who literally gave his life to the craft.
Did you watch the reunion?
I didn't. No, I honestly don't really connect with reunions that much because it's that's gonna be like groundbreaking. I don't know.
I haven't either, but I'm almost curious if they even bring this up in the reunion.
Right, probably not. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't know. I don't know. It seems like maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be curious. I almost want to watch it just to see, because it was weird because J.K. Rowling wasn't a part of it, and then
right.
Was Daniel Radcliffe there? I don't even remember.
The main three were there, as well as other cast members that were available. But yeah, I wouldn't do it if they weren't involved in it, to be honest with you. Like 20 years of the franchise, of the movies, I should say.
Yeah. Hey, we're getting rebooted.
Yeah, I know, right? I still hate that. Don't remind me. It's so stupid. But yeah, no, I think this is something that a lot of good can come out of this. If maybe for those who didn't know out of what happened during the set of that, how he was able to, like they said, living with adversity, growing up with this, and the incident itself, what he was doing, and maybe he could also shed some light on stunt work, because they are, the unsung heroes of a lot of these action movies that we go out and money on, that gets all this, millions of dollars are being made, and they are contributing to that. And more often than not, we mainly talk about the actors, directors, but the stunt doubles don't get a lot of time to shine, and so I think this movie, if done appropriately, which I think it will, could shed some light onto that part of the movie making experience.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, not much news going on. The last bit of news we have for you guys this week is, as expected, we have more delays to report, most likely due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. But Paramount Pictures said, hey, we're delaying Mission Impossible. That's what's happening. They're delaying Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning nearly a year, entire year. The film will now be released May 23rd, 2025, being pushed back from its previous release date of June 28th, 2024. So, yeah, I honestly, that's probably a good thing, in my opinion. Like, I don't think we needed another Mission Impossible a year later. You know, if it needed time to breathe, to work on extra things, for whatever the reason was, if it's for the SAG-AFTRA strike, and because you're delayed on filming, that could be a reason. But I think delaying it by another year can give it time. If this is the final movie in the franchise, then yeah, give it an extra year, do it right. We just got one. The fans are all right. We can wait 2 years for the next one. What seemed odd to me was that following this announcement, when they made this announcement, it appears that they dropped the second half of its title. So when they said Mission Impossible is going to be delayed, they didn't mention Dead Reckoning Part 2. They just said Mission Impossible. A new title is going to be announced at a later date.
But why? So why call it Dead Reckoning Part 1? Because then we're going to always be like, well, where's Dead Reckoning Part 2?
Part 2, right. I think that's a bad call. I don't know. Maybe in the process of filming the second movie, you might have a different, I don't know, thought for the ending. But I don't know. You've already committed to it. It's like, unless when like the Blu-rays are coming out, or when you're looking for this movie, it would just be called Dead Reckoning, and then maybe it will be titled something else. But it's obviously
like the other one, like the other movie that he also was in, where like it's the movie, the movie literally had like two names. What was it? It was Edge of Tomorrow, and it Live Die Repeat. It's like, well, what's the name of the movie?
Yeah, that marketing really squashed that movie for all of that.
It's a good movie.
It was first called Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, it's a good movie for the ending though. But for the most part, it was a good movie. It's just. It went from Edge of Tomorrow, then it went to Live, Die, Repeat when they came out to home video, and then they eventually changed it because people were confused about what the movie was, and then they changed it to Live, Die, Repeat, :
It's like,
Edge
it's
of
both.
I don't know where
Somebody got fired for that.
I was like, I don't. To me, why would you change the movie's out? You did it. It's done.
Just stick to one.
You just stick to it. Like it's too bad. It's almost like, you know what? It would have been better for a title of this. Like, that sucks, man. You're right. That would have been a better title. Let's do it. No, let's not do that. We don't need to change
we already dedicated to one, so we've already committed. So let's just go with what we got. It's like, nah, let's change gears. Let's do both.
Let's do both. Yeah. They should have just left it. It is what it is. No one's going to care. Everyone's already assumed that it's going to be a part 2. I am actually very curious what the title is going to be now. I'm assuming they have to drop the part 1 when you're marketing this movie, like for home video now. Yeah, I don't know.
It will be very interesting to see.
Weird move on my. It's a weird call. You shouldn't be changing titles when they're already made.
Agreed.
You already made that vote. It is what it is. Anyway. Paramount Picture also delayed A Quiet Place Day 1 just by a few months. It will now be released on June 28th, 2024, taking that previous release date for Mission Impossible, instead from its previous release date of March 8th, 2024. So just by what's math? What's month math? Or April, May, June? Just by 3 months. So
that's fine.
No big deal there. Yeah, we're going to be okay with that. I am looking forward to this movie though.
So am I.
Yeah, A Quiet Place Day 1. I think it's starring
Lupita Nyong'o.
Thank you. Yes. It's starring her. I don't think this one's not. not directed by John Krasinski. I think it's
Oh
somebody
no,
else.
yeah.
So yeah, it's another director. But I have good faith in this franchise. I like part 1 and 2. So yeah, I'm all down for it. Wait a couple months, we're all good there. But yeah, anyway, that's all the news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can find all the latest media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers or our Facebook and Threads page at Box Office Bingers. Now, we're going to be diving into a fun segment we like to call What You Watch. Have you been watching?
So I don't have much. I have because I kind of binge. I'll start with the one that I binged because this was a recommendation from a former friend to the podcast, Christina Watkins. Shout out. She came on last year. So she recommended a show on Apple TV Plus called Blackbird with Taron Egerton and Paul Walter Heiser, Greg Kinnear. It is incredible. Like, it is quite possibly one of the best TV shows I've seen this year.
Really?
100%.
That came out last year too.
It's a mini series, and it's Taron Egerton starts James or Jimmy Keene. This is a true story. He's sent to jail on a drug charge, and it followed. They see the good in him. They see his skills as an asset, so they want to use him to get this guy Larry Hall to give them information about these murders that they think that he committed, and they think that this guy can like get it out of him. Like, he's just one of those people. He seems to be one of those people who's really good at profiling. Like, he's really good at talking to people. He can like really read people when he talks to them to try to get. And he's good at getting information out of them. So they use him, and he goes from this minimum security prison to what how they describe this prison is hell. Like they describe this maximum security prison as literal hell, where he has to go in there and become buddy with this psychopath. Like, and it just follows the story of this case and kind of where we're at, and the case is still unsolved. There's parts of it that are still unsolved because of thing of what transpires in the show, and it's incredible. It absolutely is. It also stars Ray Liotta, one of his last roles. It was very nice to see him. They did one of the episodes has it in loving memory for him. Highly, highly, highly recommended. This is definitely going up on this year's top list. I don't know where yet, but it's up there.
I remember, it did not win anything. Or this was this year? I'm not sure how. I see that it's been nominated for 4 Emmys. I don't know if those awards have been I don't know if it was for last year's or for this year's awards, for Emmy Awards. But I see, it's there for Best Lead Actor for Taron Egerton, Best Supporting Actor for Paul Walter Hauser, Best Supporting Actor for Ray Liotta, and Outstanding Cinematography as well. So, I just don't remember if it was for this year or last year. But I remember this limited series coming out last year, and a lot of people were saying good things about it.
So if you haven't seen it, if you're late to the game like me, which is, to me, this is just another example of the beauty of streaming, because it doesn't really matter if you watch it when it comes out, because then you can find it, and then it's just like you're almost like you find a hidden gem, and then like you're guaranteed to find at least 1 or 2 other people who haven't seen it, and that's how the continued growth goes. Like, you don't necessarily have to catch it right when it comes out, but if you haven't seen it yet, you're definitely sleeping on it. It's incredible. I would, but you also have to be into true crime. I guess I also should preface that. If you watch true crime, this is definitely one to watch.
I think you made a good point there, because this show came out last year, and I think at the time it was getting a lot of buzz, for what Apple TV Plus is worth. A lot of people talk, when you think of Apple TV, it was like, oh, you mean Ted Lasso or The Morning Show? Yes, I am meaning that, but also there are a whole bunch of other shows, the same for many of the other streaming services. Like, you go to Disney Plus, you think of the latest Marvel or Star Wars show, but there are other things that are on there, the same with all the other ones. And I feel like you're right. There are some that just kind of get lost in the shuffle, that after the dust had settled, or you might have heard about, and then it's like, oh, I heard this was good, I'm going to put on the list. It stays on the list forever. And then because there's so many things that are coming out, you kind of just push it to the wayside, which I've done many times. Because I feel like, for me, that moment is gone. And I like to continue moving forward, because if I always focus on looking back, I can never catch up. You're always playing that game of catch up, and I hate doing that. And then eventually, when you have like a down moment, it's like, I don't think I have anything to watch. That's when you go back to the list and dust that off a little bit. You're like, oh, what were these other shows that were heard it was good but never really gave it a shot? It sounds like Blackbird was for you, where it's like, oh, it's only 6 episodes. I'm probably a little bit of a drought right now, and
I am.
Seems like you really.
I am, because there's a lot of other shows that all the really good shows I'm on hold for. Ahsoka, I can't start because me and my son, we said we wanted to watch Rebels together, but we keep him busy and I'm busy, so we're still on season 1, which is fine, and then we don't care because it's not going anywhere. So like we'll just get to it whenever we eventually get to it, and then we'll progress through Rebels, and then we'll eventually watch Ahsoka, and then I'll be able to give my thoughts on that. What's the other one? I feel like there's another one. Morning show. Like morning show is what's hot right now because it's week to week. And like it's in the back of our mind because there's so many other things that are already on the docket for that.
Right. Yeah, I mean there's just too much television, and it's hard to prioritize.
You'll never watch it all.
You never watch it all. And like again, when you decide to prioritize on one, then right now my next big binge, I'll even give you a tease, Ernesto, is The House of the Fall of the Usher, the new Mike Flanagan's new show. I haven't started it yet, but my goal is to watch it very soon. That a show is like high priority on my watch list because I'm really interested in it. But even though other shows have come out before, it's kind of important, so you just keep bringing it down. I haven't started Loki yet. So
neither have I. Oh yeah, I forgot.
That was
that one's there too.
That was there too. Like, again, I think I might have mentioned this last week, is that I haven't heard anything, nothing. Typically, especially with Ahsoka and for Secret Invasion, people were like there were headlines about it. People were like, and I was getting like little tiny spoilers, and I was like, you know what? People are talking about it. I need to start watching it, or else something big is going to get spoiled for me, because that's just how my feed is. But for Loki season 2, it's pretty absent from my feed right now, which I'm thankful because I don't want anything spoiled for me. But at the same time,
doesn't feel good though.
I guess it's just all right. No one's really talking about it. I guess either everything's happening and no one's saying anything, or nothing's happening. Therefore,
come on, man. You expect the internet to be that quiet? There's no way.
I know.
Come on now.
But yeah, but I'm glad you were able to find that hidden gem.
Yeah, and we also finished the Peter Berg show on Netflix, Painkiller. Another incredible miniseries, just well put together. I actually really like the editing. It's very like chaotic. Like it's almost very reminiscent to like the energy that the company was giving out. It's very strange, but I just felt like it was just all very cohesive. The editing, the cinematography, the storytelling, just kind of the way they did it. I think the most powerful thing they did, and I've mentioned it in previous episodes, just the way that they open each episode. There's a disclaimer, they have to give a disclaimer that certain parts are fictionalized. So, I was listening to his interview with Joe Rogan, and he was saying that, that they could have just put the black title card up, but he's like, I don't want to let them off that easy. So he has this family, just seemingly some person just reading that line, and then they take it a step further and they go, what is real is my significant other, whoever it was, kids, spouses, parents, all afflicted by what OxyContin did, and how that drug literally ruined their family. And each episode is a different family. They chose a different person, a different family. It was just very powerful, and it 100% set the mood for the episode, for every episode as you watched it. It was very powerful. Like it needs to be nominated for next year. And and if you've seen Dope Sick on Hulu, it's very reminiscent to that, but I would actually say that this is just a lot better. And I think they can work comparatively together. Like I feel like they evoke the same message, they get across the same message, and they're both effective in their own way. But to me, this one's just a little bit edgier. It's just a little bit more, it's a little bit more in your face. Really good performances from especially from Matthew Broderick. Like, he really killed it. And then you just see Agent Coulson in a whole new light because he's also in it. He's also in it. So I definitely recommend you put this on your list because it should be talked about in next year's award season.
Yeah, because this is considered so miniseries, so this would be under for the Emmys then.
Yeah.
Or for the Golden Globes, because they also do TV. So I guess those
Correct.
would be the two bigger ones for them. But yeah, I haven't, aside from you, not a lot of people are talking about this. To your point, but I have. When it came out, I did see that it was out and like it was getting some high praise. But then after that, it kind of just. That was it. I didn't hear anything else about it. That's good. I would definitely check it out.
Yeah. And the only other one I've kind of started my new binge, which is Jack Ryan.
Yes.
Which is the John Krasinski show. That's great. I'm still kind of early on, so I'm enjoying it. It's good TV. So if you haven't seen it, if you're looking for a binge, it's definitely one to watch. But other than that, that's all I got.
Okay. So Megan and I talked about the show before, and they just wrapped up with their final season. Megan and I binged all 8 episodes of Sex Education season 4.
Oh, that's right.
And it came out mid-September, I believe. So yeah, we just got around to it, and it's so good. It's so good. This time around, I remember there was a lot of like articles that I was reading when they were filming the final season that a lot of characters that were in the first 3 seasons are not going to be in season 4. And I thought that was an interesting move because like we've connected with these characters and their stories, and what happened at the end of season 3, it involved a school, and therefore that particular school got shut down for what was happening at that school. And so they had to, I guess, story-wise, they were able to they had to go to a different school. So I guess that was their writing, their like way to get certain characters out. I don't know if that was intentional, but maybe when they were on the drawing board, maybe they figured that we can probably tell more effective stories if we have less characters to focus on, or focus on our main characters, since this is the final season, then maybe less on the supporting cast. But also when we were watching the season, they just brought a different supporting cast at the new school. And I feel like what they were able to do was they just really shined a light on like a lot of different relationships and a lot of struggles that either teens could be having or just relationships in general. Because they focused on like trans couples, gay couples, bi couples, straight couples, and how sex has not an issue, but like how that affects each different person, and like all the different stories that they even bounced around in religion and race and religion and what you identify with and how that can either work for your benefit or maybe is struggling. People who are just dealing with a whole bunch of different issues. And it really, more than ever, and it kind of touched upon the LGBTQ plus community within season. It was more and more each season, but this season 4 really hyped it up and it cranked it to 11 and just kind of went for it and just showed all these different kinds of relationships that you can have with all these different types of people. And I think by the end of it, they really did a great job of like highlighting our main cast and giving them a final send-off while also focusing on the new characters that we were with and giving them moments to shine as well, and actually giving us, the viewer, something to care about, like within their journey and their struggles. So yeah, I have nothing but high praise to say about that show. I'm sad that it's over though, because not only did it bring a lot of heart, but it was so funny. It's so funny. So so yeah, if you haven't watched it, Sex Education's a great show. It's very funny. It's I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's like Nick. It's Ncuti Gatwa, and he plays Eric on the show, and he's been the highlight through all 4 seasons. He's good with the new Doctor Who, So, and I don't watch Doctor Who, but I thought his performance this season was fantastic, as well as other shows as well, but other seasons. But this season in particular, he really stepped it up a notch. But this was also after the fact that he got Doctor Who, so maybe in my eyes is like, hey, I gotta step it up a little bit. I'm gonna be the new Doctor soon.
So is it Nakati Gatwa?
Yes, yeah, him. But yeah, he will also be the first gay doctor, and he is a gay person on the show. So, but yeah, I think he's gonna be great in as the Doctor. And actually, since Doctor Who is gonna be accessible, because I think Disney Plus signed a deal with BBC to have new episodes air on Disney Plus. So yeah, it's something that I'm interested in. Even though I've never seen Doctor Who, since he's gonna be the new Doctor, I might give the first episode a watch, see how that world is.
Oh, like
and maybe I might find interest in
it. Oh, you mean starting with him, or are you gonna go back and start like Christopher Eccleston? No. Hey, that's great TV. Him, David Tennant, Matt Smith. I dropped off at Peter Capaldi. I don't know. But I'd be interested to pick it back up because I heard that the Doctor after him that she was much better. So
I think Jodie.
It was Jodie something. I couldn't remember. I don't remember. Yeah.
Jodie Foster, Jodie Comer. No, who's the Doctor? I think it's Jodie Foster right now. Doctor Who. Jodie Whittaker. Jodie Whittaker is our new Doctor. But then they're also doing like specials. Like I saw, like they're doing like like David Tennant's coming back to do like a 3-episode special or something.
I'm about that.
It's the whole Doctor Who thing is very confusing. If I do decide to dive into it, I'd need like a prep course. Someone give me like a 30-minute video on YouTube. Just give me a crash course of what this show is all about, because every time I look at Doctor Who, I'm like, I'm so lost right now. I don't know. Like the only thing I understand is that it's the same person, different actor, because the Doctor can do that.
Yes, that was their way to keep the show going. He can, every so often he has to regenerate, and when you regenerate, that's when you change who the Doctor is physically. But the still essence of the person, the soul of the Time Lord is the same. It's the same spirit, different physical form.
Gotcha. Okay, but are they all acting the same, or they're all doing different things? Like there's their version of the Doctor.
Yeah, their version. They take on, each person, they take on their own certain characteristics of the Doctor.
Got it.
Like, I think, like David Tennant, I don't know. See, like I love David Tennant, but Matt Smith, I didn't like him at first, but then he grew on me at the end. Like, especially him and Karen Gillan. Like, that was the first place. That was the first time I saw her, was when she was in Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see, and then right now it's who stars alongside David Tennant?
Oh,
Catherine Tate.
Yeah, the girl from she was the one who was in The Office.
The Office, yeah. I feel like I've never watched a single episode of Doctor Who, but a lot of people say some good stuff about it. So, like, honestly, if I were to start anywhere, when did David Tennant start? Who was first, David Tennant or Matt Smith? Well,
David Tennant was before Matt Smith, but before him was Christopher Eccleston, I think his name is.
Okay. I feel like I would probably start with David Tennant, because that's the one that I feel like that's more modern. I can't see myself going way back. I can see myself doing that.
But because Christopher Eccleston, I think it's Eccleston is what I found. He was the 9th Doctor when it revived in 2005. But that was like a really good season. Even though he was very short lived, like they gave him a really good storyline. Like, it was really, really good. Like, it was like almost top tier. Like, those first 3 Doctors for me were like the best, at least in my opinion. I'm sure everybody else has their opinions.
Sure.
But that's where I would start, is at the start of the revival.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I'll take your word on it, because like, are they really taking like that many storylines from like many years go and they're just like constant thing, or can you just jump in when a new doctor?
You could probably jump in when a new doctor jumps on, because everything it's like comic books. It can just be re-referenced. You can go back and watch it later and still enjoy it. I mean, because I technically jumped in the ninth Doctor during the revival, but even throughout the show, they would give like hints and callbacks to the original series, to the first 9 Doctors, the first 8 Doctors. Excuse me.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think there's like a clock now you can buy that has on it, or I guess now we're in 13 or 14 now.
I don't know.
I think there's a clock now you can buy that has like 12 doctors on it. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so yeah, Sex Education season 4. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it or just haven't seen the show in general, it's a really fun watch. It's very funny, very.
And it's
wholesome.
done now, right?
Definitely recommend it. It's done now. Yeah, it's over. And again, I'm sad to see it go, but all good shows must come to an end. So that's the hard stuff about watching TV. It's that you spend so much time investing in these characters, and then they're like, it's the final season. It's like, no.
And
no,
certain ones just hit harder than others. I know which one is yours.
Very true.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Which one? Oh yes, yeah, I did. That was a hard. I mean, man, that season, that whole show had it had its ups and downs, but I think they ended up pretty well. That one was so underrated. More people should have watched it. Maybe not 5 and 6, but 7 was a great ending to this franchise. Yeah, I really hope in some way within this very weird, convoluted Marvel Cinematic Universe, they find a way to bring back Coulson and some of the cast from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's the one for me where it's like, come on, guys, we're playing with multiverses now. Let's
have them
put
walk
them
through.
in there. Just walk through. Get a portal, walk them in it.
Yeah,
done.
Exactly.
Not asking for much. The other thing that I watched, that Megan and I watched, was The Beanie Bubble. It's on Apple TV Plus. It stars Zach Galifianakis and I can see it in my head, and I can't. Just give me a second. I'm not prepared for this at all. The Beanie Bubble. It's basically how the rise and fall of the Beanie Baby industry kind of came about. Yeah, okay, that's right. The Beanie Bubble, Zach Galifianakis, Elizabeth Banks, Sarah Snook, all in it, and it wasn't bad. It was an interesting kind of take on how all that transpired. The guy who created the Beanie Babies, the craze that it was, the people also responsible for kind of apparently the movie was kind of showcasing how shady like the creator was, and he was using other people to get ahead, while also there being a threat of this bubble that is going to burst, and therefore, long story short, no one really listened to this bubble, and then when it bursted, this company crashed and burned. And at one point, very similar to how some toys, action figures, Funko Pops, trading cards, they're all, over time, they gain value because there's a sense of scarcity to them and limitations and limited editions and all that stuff that will get value, and then you take them off the market, and therefore people want them, and then there's a secondary market and all that stuff. Pretty much an interesting thing about just collecting stuff in general. And then there's a value to it. Well, these Beanie Babies were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, certain because of how limited they were. But their problem was that they kept releasing more and more, and therefore they were losing their scarcity, and then the bubble bursted, and then they kind of tanked, and now they're worth nothing. So the movie kind of went over all of that. It wasn't bad. Again, another solid Apple TV Plus movie. Like, I don't think I've seen one that really disappointed me so far.
They're Apple TVs, quality content, even though they're raising their prices, which we already knew was going to happen.
But everyone's raising their prices right now. I think Apple TV said they're going to raise their prices. Disney Plus is about to raise their prices in November, and Netflix also announced that they're raising their prices again. Netflix is the last person that should be raising their prices.
I know,
by the way.
like, hey, we're making you pay more to split, and then we're going to raise our prices again.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. At this point, we talked about the streaming wars before. Prices are going up. It's in order for you to have all of the streaming services, whether you want ads or no ads or whatever, It's just and if you want all of them, you're paying for cable again.
Yeah.
The sad thing about cable is that there's no good TV on there.
No.
So
this is
you
what
have
you're
to
stuck
submit
with.
to. Yeah, pretty much for the most part. But yeah, the Beanie Bubble, not too bad. And then the rest of my watching have been catching myself up with some horror stuff. And I went down John Carpenter's library. I saw 2 movies of his. The Fog.
Okay. That's the one with Tom Welling, right?
I believe so. It wasn't great. I'll say that. Is it with Tom Welling? It's with. No, it's.
I think maybe I'm thinking of The Mist.
The Mist might be. It's with Jamie Lee Curtis, and even though she's on the title, she's not the main character.
It's the 1980 film. Yes.
Yeah. They did a remake. Was it The Mist? I'm not sure.
No. The Fog is the. You saw the 1980s version of The Fog?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Directed by John Carpenter, written and directed by John Carpenter. I think it was an interesting movie. I didn't care for it too much. It was very slow. It was more of like this threat, less about it being scary. It's like how people are reacting to this thing. Not too thrilled about it. What I found interesting was that Jamie Lee Curtis, coming off of the success of Halloween, is on the cover and on the poster of The Fog. Yet she is maybe in 10, 15 minutes of the movie, like total. Like she's there sporadically, but overall she's not our main character. So I think they were just very much capitalizing on her stardom to put her on the poster. But the movie that I really thought was like, damn, was The Thing by John Carpenter. I think, if I remember correctly, when we had James on the podcast, he talked about the prequel that came out in about 2011 to The Thing, also called The Thing. And he was saying that it was a prequel and it was done well, and it kind of led right into the events of The Thing, the when did that come out? 1982 film starring Kurt Russell. Ernesto, you got to watch that movie. Holy shit! If you haven't already, that was really good. I was not expecting to like that movie so much as I did. It's a lot of it's paranoia, like horror, because we don't know what The Thing is, but also The Thing is a lot of things, and what they did for makeup and what they did for, like, when we see that monster and all the practicalities that came with it, you're like, wow, where's that today in film, man? They don't make them like that no more. It looked so good. So, like, because I believe it was just all practical and all the different effects they were trying to use for it, I really dug it. I even looked up a few things online and was like either how they did that or like the deeper meanings within the movie, and there's a lot to unpack there. So now I'm really interested to see the prequel movie. I don't think it's going to be as good. But I was quite surprised with what this one had to offer. So
where did you find it, or did you rent it?
It was on, I believe it's on Max. Yeah, it's on Max.
Okay. Now, what would you equate it to as far as, like, is it like Freddy Krueger? Is the feel kind of like Child's Play? Is it like Friday the 13th? Like,
you see, I think what makes this one special is that it's none of that. It's not a slasher film. There's no iconic, monster that's there. I think the poster, looking at it now and watch the movie, and just like a guy in a snow like suit, really speaks more volume now that I look at it. There's just a lot there, even within the poster, a lot of mystery there. I think if I were just to kind of show any similarities to it, it's almost like Jordan Peele's Nope.
Really?
I get that vibes from it. And it's weird because obviously I'm comparing it to a new movie, and I watched that one first, so that's what I'm going to compare it to, even though this movie came out in the 80s. But, that's the vibe I got. It's like we just don't know what it is. But when you see it, it's like, oh. Now, Nope is a little bit more all over the place. but I feel like this one, like we get to see some things, like again with the prosthetics and everything. So, as far as the mystery that surrounded Nope, that's the feel that I got. But not like by the end of Nope, you saw like this big spaceship. It's like none of that is going on. But it is interesting to see what the thing is and what it isn't and what it could be and all that stuff that's surrounding it. But I think I'm just more impressed with just how like much of what we saw is just all practical and is so weird, and it's hard to describe the thing, like what the thing is, without giving anything away. And I know this movie came out in the 80s, but you haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil anything for you. But yeah, I if you haven't seen it, for those who have, you know what I'm kind of talking about. But for those who haven't, then I definitely recommend it. It's one of the, I think that was better than Halloween, to be honest with you, as far as John Carpenter's work in the horror genre, and he's done a lot of work in the horror genre. I haven't seen like his other movies, like Big Trouble in Little China, or I know that's not horror, but and Escape from New York. It's one of his like other two bigger movies that he's made with Kurt Russell. But yeah, this one's a really good one. I think a lot of people have all stated for a while that like The Thing is probably like his masterpiece, and after watching it, I was like, yeah, this was definitely better than Halloween. So
now, would you?
Yeah.
Now, what is it rated? PG-13, rated R?
It's rated R.
Okay. So just me and the wife.
I wouldn't say that there are some gruesome things there. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this is not suitable for kids, but it can definitely give kids nightmares. I'll tell you that.
That's the whole point. Scare them to sleep. Just kidding.
Yeah. Well, they'll be scared of something.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with that. He can wait.
You can wait. But yeah. And then the last thing that I watched was I went to the theater and I saw X. Ernesto.
Ooh, okay.
I saw the new Saw movie, and you know what? It's really good.
Really
I have
good?
to give them credit. I enjoyed it from beginning to end.
Okay.
There was a lot to really like about the movie. I think I remember we talked about this last year when we announced that they were making another Saw movie, and we're like, after Jigsaw and Spiral, it just this franchise is going downhill. And I remember when we were talking about the movie, the creators behind it said that we're gonna do the fans right here. We're gonna give them something worth watching. We're gonna more or less going back to the drawing board, and they're gonna do right to the franchise. And I think they did just that. They did a great job of like putting emotion into this movie that I wasn't expecting. The story was like really, really solid.
Like Saw 1 good?
This movie takes place right after Saw 1. And the way that I took this movie and I was able to really appreciate it is that first thing, they got Tobin Bell back as Jigsaw. And I was like, and he was the main star. Like, it's not even like he was the villain. No, he was front and center, beginning to end, his perspective. I don't think we ever got that in a Saw movie. We were always about the people who were in the traps. And it was very much not that kind of movie at all. It was a more kind of thoughtful movie in the way. Like, you're getting inside of his mind. You understand the reasons why he's doing things and what is justifiable in his head of creating these traps to make people suffer and make decisions, live or die, that type of whole thing. And it's honestly, this movie is a better intro to Saw than any other movie I would recommend. Like, if you say, hey, I want to get into the Saw franchise, watch Saw X. And if that doesn't do it for you, then I don't think you're going to like this franchise. But it's also a very different movie from what these were trying to be. I think Spiral was taking the chaotic approach from it, like from the detective angle. It's like, we've done all that. That was not the way to go. Well, I think where they realized where they need to take a step back was that you got to go after Jigsaw himself. He's still alive. He's old, but he's still kicking. He's still doing pretty well.
it's just like
how
it's like what we've been talking about before, is that everybody, like, there's just been a cultural thing where people are obsessed with understanding villainy and understanding, like, trying to get into the mind of the villain and trying to come with a logical sense of how they got to doing the crazy shit that they end up doing. Whoever, insert villain here, whoever that perfect example is Thanos, like a well-written, fleshed-out villain that people were, like, online weirdly connecting with, but
Yeah.
like, that's just the essence of good writing, like finding a good way to write in a villain story. Like, that seems to be like the huge hit in writing, and that sounds like maybe that's what this is, because he was the star. Like, so we see the protagonist. I feel like there should be a new word.
I would say, yeah, I mean, but he is the protagonist in a way. Like, they kind of made him out to be the hero in this twisted, in a twisted way. Kind of what the movies we've seen before. Like, if you look at it at the end of Infinity War, Thanos is technically through our protagonist, and he won.
Yeah,
he won the day. Like, mission complete at the end of Infinity War. So, yeah, in a sense, like, you watch Saw X and you're like, okay, mission complete. Like, and you're like, good for you. And you're like, wait,
what?
yes, yeah.
but
yeah, I think it's just done it in a way that I was able to connect with the Jigsaw character more. So then when we go into the future installments, and what's sad is that they always in the franchise, like, Tobin Bell was not even in the first movie up until the very end, obviously. Like, he was there, but he wasn't. And then we really didn't get to know more about him until the second movie. But he was also, like, our villain under the eyes of the people who were stuck in the traps, as well as our, as well as through the detectives and all that stuff. The third movie is where he died. Spoiler alert. And they went through some of his more stuff. And the biggest thing we knew about him was that he was, going through cancer, and for reasons that we were slowly learning of why he was doing that. And then from movies 4, 5, 6, and 7, we were pretty much seeing this character through flashbacks. I think the franchise always knew that they killed off Tobin Bell and Jigsaw too early, because we keep learning more about this character for every movie through flashbacks. So, but we never got to see him be Jigsaw after that within these flashbacks. So now we get to this movie where we put him front and center, and I was like, you can give me more of this. You can give me this all day. And so, like, if you watch Saw 1 and see the events take place there, and then it goes into Saw, so basically it's Saw 1, then Saw X, then Saw 2.
So this is basically what Saw 2 should have been.
I would say this is what Saw 1 should have been.
Oh, really?
I would go as far as that. But what I like about Saw 1, but maybe not. I think you might be more right, because Saw 1 was more of like, what? The surprise factor of it all. Because, like, again, spoiler alert for Saw 1, like, there was just a dead body sitting on the floor the entire movie. And then right at the very end, he just walks up. Like, so he wasn't dead this entire time, and but we saw other things play out in that movie, and we learned more about other characters, but we knew nothing about Jigsaw. So when it comes to the second movie, we get to learn a little bit more about who this character is. So to your point, yes, I think this is a better Saw 2 than Saw 2, because, like, I think in Saw 2 we really get to see him, like, unhinged in Saw 2, and then we see him die in Saw 3. So I am interested, like, I'm really curious, like, going into, like, watching, like, a breakdown video of the Saw franchise and kind of see the story chronologically, because I feel like with all these movies, they've been bouncing around kind of all over the place. And so it would be nice to get, like, a clear picture of, like, the events that happened throughout this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were able to see why, a more justifiable way of putting these people in traps. And, like, they already did that in the movies, because you're taking people who have sinned and you're not killing them. You're just putting them in these really, really bad situations to make them make a choice where they can live or die. So
making them value life. That's like his whole thing.
exactly, value life, because he's the one that's dealing with cancer. So yeah, and it just sucks now that he's in his 80s, and I mean for an actor who is in his 80s, he killed it. He nailed it. And so I don't know if this is just a one-off or if we can get more of this style of Saw, but like by the time we got to the traps, it wasn't like as chaotic and like, I mean, it was definitely gruesome, don't get me wrong, but like it wasn't as like crazy as the other movies kind of handed out to be. There was more reason behind it, and therefore you're like, all right, well, is this person gonna get out? We'll see. Like I kind of care a little bit more than I normally do. So yeah, and I think this is also sitting fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, which if I'm not mistaken, is the only fresh Saw movie in the franchise. So I think that's, maybe the first one might be fresh, but if it's not, then this is the only one sitting on that. Like, so I think that says something. I think they got something here that, like, yeah, I think we can. This franchise is salvageable. And just looking it up now, Saw X is sitting at a 79%, and Saw 1 is sitting at a 50, which was the highest. So all the other ones are just lower than that.
I mean, there's certain ones that are just dumpster juice. They're just so bad.
Not good. Because I think the focus was just on like how more inventive can we do the traps, and that's what only people were here for, and people are just calling it torture porn, which
to a certain extent it was, yeah.
To a certain extent, yeah. You're right. To a certain extent it was, and what I liked about those franchises is that there was always some sort of mystery and a twist behind it. I was always like really excited to see what the twist was, and this movie didn't really go for that either, which was kind of the twist in the movie itself. There wasn't much of a twist. You kind of expected some of the things that kind of played out. So like, it was short of it all, it was really refreshing for this franchise to get that, and also for this franchise to get a win like that.
Yeah.
So with all that, if we can get more of this, then let's do it. Let's keep this alive.
I mean, for the one that I really remember, and I want to say it's either the second one or the third one, where they're in the house and the girl who's a drug addict, she gets thrown onto like, I get chills every time I even think about it. She gets thrown onto like a bed, like a tub of syringes, like trying to find some key or anything, and they like throw her on. You just like it was such a crazy, like, out of all the Saw movies, that's the one that I remember. I think it's either the second one or the third one.
It's two.
It's two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the first two are really good. I think for me it's 1, 2, and I really liked 5. 5 was good.
But where does X?
Yeah,
where is it? So is X number 1 in your ranking? So what's your ranking of what's your top 3?
I would say, because I would say, I would say that X is. Well, I think for my ranking, I would probably give it like a.
Like between what's all right? So what's number 3? Your top 3, because you've seen them all, right?
Yeah, I've seen them all. Yeah, 5 is probably 3.
Okay, what's your number 2?
And then it's a toss-up. I guess I would say X than 1, but X is a better story. Like it's a far better story. So maybe X. Maybe X15. Maybe X15. Yeah.
Okay.
X15.
Okay.
Yeah,
because that's not necessarily the watch order. That's just which one is the most captivating,
Right. Yeah, and I was like you get invested pretty quick, but also this movie does act as if you've seen them before. So like there are.
How much prior knowledge do you need to have? At least like the first 3, much. Maybe the first one.
No. I think you just need a little knowledge of who Jigsaw is. Or just his stick, but also they do a pretty good job. Like if this was the one that you're going to start with, is not wrong. It's just I feel like, and here's the thing. Here's the tricky part. If you watch this movie, other surprises will not hit as hard if you watch this first.
Well,
if that makes sense.
Well,
like
that'll test
twist in the first movie.
Yeah, that'll test this. That'll test the series though. That'll test how you feel about the whole.
Right.
Because then, like, so is the rest of the series just dependent on the surprise, like, is Saw 1 enjoyable without with knowing the twist? Like, almost like a rewatch. Is it good on a rewatch?
Right.
I would say yes.
And honestly, I would say yes too. I would say that The Sixth Sense, like for example, I knew about the twist before I watched the movie.
Ooh.
And to me, the movie was boring when I watched it for the first time, because me watching it for the first time was as if I watched it for the second time, because I knew the punchline at the end of the movie. I knew the twist. So I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, Bruce Willis. Yeah, okay, I got it. Okay. Yeah." And so for me, it wasn't entertaining without it. But I will say that Saw 1 is a little bit better at that on a rewatch, even when you know that what the twist is at the end of that movie.
Okay.
But also, if you watch Saw X, it kind of gives away the twist in the first movie and the second movie, and I'm not sure when a certain detective shows up in other movies, but also that is when other detectives show up in the movie. So there's a certain detective that shows up in the franchise where he's a bigger role in the franchise, and you also see him cameo in Saw X. So,
but do they draw attention to him though? Like, do they draw attention to that person? Like, as if you already know who that person is within the franchise, or you just see him show up as a person? Like, if that makes sense.
You see him helping Jigsaw.
Okay.
So like at that point, that twist, which I believe in one of the Saw movies, there was a twist where the detective was working with Jigsaw.
Oh, wasn't it like 4, 5, or 6? I feel like it was one of those.
One of them. It could have been 4. Now that I'm trying to think about it, but I think it could have been 4, where the detective was working with Jigsaw, for Jigsaw, and so that if you watch Saw X, you see him working with him. You're like, so if you're watching these in order, then you're like, oh, in the second movie she's working with Jigsaw, and in the fourth movie she's working with Jigsaw, but you already knew that, so those twists don't add well. But it's better for someone who's seen the franchise now. I can watch it in the order in which they want me to, and I think that's, that serves better, trying to put all this stuff together.
Okay, I'd be interested. I haven't seen them in so long, so I would almost want to watch Saw X and then watch the other ones to see if it's still enjoyable. It's like to see what the enjoyment level is,
Yeah, I would recommend it. I mean, I haven't seen these movies in a while myself. So I'm down for it. The only one I recommend don't watching is Spiral, because that has nothing to do with this franchise. It doesn't even use any of the characters. It's this whole independent thing, and I hate it. Hate it a lot. So much. I hate it so much. The one thing that I do give credit for this franchise, when they did Saw the Final Chapter, it was one of the worst movies in the franchise, but with the exception of the last 10 minutes, because I felt like they did a really good job kind of putting a bow on it, wrapping it all up, and tying this franchise together. Kind of very similar to The Final Destination, if you've seen all those movies. If you watch the last movie in the franchise, it's not great, but boy does it just have a nice little button on it. So yeah. But anyway, if you haven't seen the Saw franchise and you can withstand some of the gruesome stuff that happens in that movie, in that franchise, I definitely recommend giving it a watch, because outside of that, there are some good, interesting story angles, and if you like a good twist in a movie, they're definitely there. So anyway, that's all we've been watching, and now we're going to be diving in to our spoiler review of the week, the movie that maybe everyone's talking about. The Oscars are definitely looking at it. It's Martin Scorsese, it's Eros Roth, Leonardo DiCaprio, it's Robert De Niro, it's Flowers, The Killer Moon. Ernesto, your thoughts on the film?
See, I almost, given our last conversation with The Irishman, I almost want you to go first.
Okay. Well, I'll just put it on Front Street. This was better than The Irishman.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Right there.
I can agree with that.
Better than The Irishman.
Yes, I agree.
I will say this. It wasn't long. Absolutely. This movie's 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it was long.
Way too long.
I agree.
Way too long. We could have, at the very least, shaved off 30 minutes. I think I would have been okay with a. He made this movie. Paramount Pictures bought it. Ended up being too expensive. It's a $200 million movie, and the budget was $200 million. And to share the wealth, Apple ended up footing the bill as well as Paramount. So this movie was originally going to air on Apple TV Plus. It was Apple TV and Paramount who decided that this movie has legs, and we're going to put it out in theaters as a wide release.
Which I get. I mean, it's total Oscar bait. I mean, it's a total Oscar bait movie. I mean, not to say that it's bad. The thing is that it's not, like, as far as a well put together film, it is great. The score is great. The cinematography is beautiful. The set pieces are gorgeous. The production design, the costumes, like, really everything technically that was put out with this movie was phenomenal. Like, I love the costumes. I love the production design. I love the score. I love the cinematography. Like, I could totally see it all. And also, I will say, regardless of the pacing of the movie, I think Lily Gladstone should be nominated for her performance as being, like, a first-time actress. And even some of the actors, they're actual people of the Osage, like from the Osage Nation, and I mean, they did better than some seasoned actors. Like you almost, like, to me, it was so original because it just seems like maybe they just didn't, they're just like, whatever, we're just going to do us, and you just turn the cameras on. We're just going to forget that they're there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it seemed like. It felt very real and very natural, especially like that TP scene where all the families are meeting together. When they're first trying to figure out what's going on with the murders. Like, I thought that was a really well put together. So I thought that was a great scene.
Yeah, and to your point, I think I can see what, like, Apple and what Paramount saw to make this a wide release. Because, again, this was supposed to be an Apple TV Plus airing on their streaming service. They decided to put this as a wide release, which, if you didn't know, this was the first streaming movie that is getting a wide release. For the first movie made by a streamer to be put in theaters as a wide release. So eventually it would hit Apple TV Plus. Maybe before the end of the year, maybe at the beginning of the new year, who knows? But eventually it will go there. And from what I was reading, it's more of a trial run for Apple TV Plus because they don't care about making any money off of this because it wasn't supposed to be in theaters in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. This is just a bonus.
It's a bonus, absolutely. And
Yeah.
but in my head, why weren't you doing that before?
Yeah. It's like we
Why
get
weren't you doing
automatic.
bonuses before?
We get automatic Oscar buzz. What are we doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And just like the budget, like I said, was $200 million. It opened at 23 million, which isn't great. Right now, it's sitting at 30 with a worldwide of 55. For a movie that was never going to go to theaters, a worldwide 55 is not a bad return.
No.
On top of that, also there's a lot riding on this movie. Obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese, all that stuff will drive people. Definitely hitting an older audience for this. But as far as the story goes, and like I said, I agree with you. I see the appeal there to make this a wider release. This movie looks and feels authentic. Like, I was wrapped into it 100%. Like the acting, the production design, the costume design. Even some parts of the cinematography were good. The score, like I mentioned earlier, was also really good. Like, I see it there more than I did with The Irishman.
Correct.
The only problem with this movie was, I think it all just boils down to the pacing.
Yeah.
The pacing was just really slow, and I was expecting, and maybe this is me projecting onto the film, but I was expecting like some really high highs in this movie. And I feel like it was just matter of fact. It's like the events of this is based on a true story. We're showcasing you a 3.5 hour version of the events of what happened. And that's it. Like, there wasn't like these big twists. There wasn't these big moments. There wasn't like this big, maybe spectacle that I was looking for. It was just is. And then to me, I thought the ending was very anticlimactic, in my opinion.
Well, the ending, I think it was just a little weird because we get this grand exposition on everything, and then all of a sudden we cut to like this 1940s vaudeville act of like being read on news radio, and then Martin Scorsese comes out and just closes out the show. Like, I don't know, like give that screen time to Lily Gladstone. Like, why couldn't we have seen her like with her new life, getting a divorce from Leonardo DiCaprio's character? Why didn't we see Robert De Niro's like see what that evil amounted to in his later days? Like, that would have been a more impactful ending. And also, I feel like they focused more on the exposition and the planning of the murders, whereas to like we spent a lot of time just sitting around with a bunch of old white guys like talking about how we're gonna kill these people. Like, it's like, well, now you got to go here, and then I got to go meet Billy the Kid, and he's gonna give me some dynamite, and then we're gonna blow up the house, and then like just fucking do it, like, or do both things as you're talking about it. Give us a voiceover, and then show us doing the action. Like, why do we need two separate things about that? Like, like, and his friend, the guy who they were doing the car insurance scam. Like, why did we need that whole part of the scenario expounded out? We got him sitting with him there. We got the chase scene with him and the cops. We got the cops talking to him about it. We got them busting him about it later on in the movie as a part of the thing. Like, that could have been consolidated. You could have cut, like, that's like 10 minutes of the film you could have cut out, and you could have just talked about it as like two different things. Or it could have been like a voiceover on how they on what led up to killing her. Like, there was just a lot that was overly expounded out, and then like I felt like key parts of this story that were left out that should have been included. Like I talked about in the beginning, like the whole pact that caused them to move in the first place. Like, why didn't we see that? That's a key part of the story, is them being forced to move onto the slam. Like, why was that like a montage in the beginning of the movie? Like, that should have been, we should give that the screen time. Like, we don't need this 1940s news radio read of what happened. We need, like, this is what this movie is. You're supposed to be given as exposition. Like, that's bull. Like, that's weird. Like, we don't need that. Nobody needed that at the end. Like,
I agree with you. It just took me out of the movie.
100%.
I mean, I think that was the point of it, maybe. But like you were showcasing the story within a traditional movie format. Why did you take us out of it at the end of it? It just didn't make any sense to me why you would do that. And it's like I guess that was the equivalent of like a title card. Well,
we got both.
Cut to black.
They gave us that and title cards.
And that's why it's 3.5 hours, folks. But there's another part that I found going off your point. Like, we already knew for the most part who committed the murders of her sister Anna. Like, toward like more like before halfway in the movie. I couldn't really pinpoint when in the movie. Maybe within the first hour or so. But we knew that she died, and we knew all these things already. But then when we got to trial and in the court case, we saw that events play out, and almost as like in my head is like, well, we already knew this, so why are you going out of your way and showing us that? Almost as if like because he was telling him, so did you do this? Yeah, that's how I did it. Do that. And I thought they were going to show us something different from what he was saying, but no, you just showed us that scene. We already knew she was dead like 2 hours ago, and then 2 hours later into the movie, you decide to show us that scene. What was the point of that?
Yeah, exactly.
What was the point of showing us that? We didn't need to see it, or else you just would have shown it 2 hours ago. Like, I feel like part of the problem with this movie, again, going on with the pacing, but also is that we were always in on the bit. Like, we were
already in the know.
We were already in the know. So there was nothing that was supposed to shock us. It was nothing that was supposed to elude us to think it was something else. It was, again, a very matter of fact. It's like we were never... The audience knew as much as Robert De Niro, pretty much.
Yes.
Like, Robert De Niro's character was the mastermind of all of this. This tragedy, this horribleness in this movie. And we were always under the scope of him, even though our main protagonist was Leonardo DiCaprio's character. But we were always in the know of the events that were happening within this movie, so there was really nothing to be like 100% engaged with it, other than seeing how these events.
It almost like the re-exposition of it almost pulled me out of the movie, and then plus like they would just like reintroduce characters, like, oh, we haven't seen this character in 2 hours. Let's get reintroduced to him. So I don't forgot who he is at this point. This is 3.5 hours long straight, and I'm trying not to go to the bathroom and like. I don't know.
I found my bathroom's break though. I had to use it.
I will say the highlights for me were some of the performances, and that would be from
absolutely
Robert De Niro, especially Robert De Niro, because he just played like this soft, kind, evil man, and I thought he played it so convincingly. Like it was like real, like very captivating, very like great performance. Like probably for me, it's one of his strongest performances is seeing him do this role.
I know. I agree with you, because to me, where I felt like I was really like, it was a point where like as a viewer, you want to hate this person,
Correct.
right, for everything that he was doing. The point that I noticed him as a good actor in this movie, like to me this like transcended like, oh damn, you're doing something really good here, was when he was sitting around the table with all the other natives of the Osage tribe, and they were trying to hire a private investigator, and he was like, I will throw in $1,000 for this private investigator, and also I'm with you people, and if you have any information, also let me know. And I was like, this is a real son of a bitch right here. God damn, I hate him so much right now. But that's what made him a good actor, because I believed in 100% of what he was doing.
Yes, and you just reminded me of another thing that they gave us over exposition. The whole thing, the private investigator. So we get to meet the private investigator. We get to meet with him. Then we talk about what they want to do to him, and then we see it happen. And then in the court case, we get to see it happen again for a second time. Why? Yes. for such a yes, it bears a small importance. But in the grand scheme of this 3.5 hour movie, we did not need to see that one part play out so many times.
Yeah, and also like the only time the first time we saw him get jumped.
Yes.
The second time we saw that it was Leonardo DiCaprio behind it. Like he was like, I think at that point in the movie we were unsure about Leo's involvement in the role of what De Niro was scheming, and I think it was within those moments where he's like, okay, so he is 100% involved in what's going on. but he's also naive about it. Which also then I give credit to Leonardo DiCaprio and his performance, because I believed that he loved his wife.
I think he did.
And he was in love. I think he did. But he was easily manipulated to, and De Niro was 100% using that to his advantage.
100%. I think that he, like you said, his uncle saw that he did love her, and that he would use his love for her against him. It's like, slowly he'll just like, well, just do this one little thing. Like, you'll even see it in the end when he's trying to get him to sign over the property rights. He's like, we're going to take care of her. She's going to die soon anyway. It's like, just go ahead and sign that paper right there. Go ahead and sign that. Give me that land.
He's like, I signed it. Your brother signed it. We all have to sign it. We just have to sign. And like, he wasn't really saying much, but Leo was just really. It's like, well, if my uncle said so, I guess
I got to do it.
I guess
Uncle knows best.
Like, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. But you can tell, like, at that moment, he was like, I don't know, this sounds fishy, but my uncle says it's the best thing to do, so I guess I got to do it. And like, you kind of felt sorry for him at that moment, because like, he doesn't in a way know any better. That's kind of, that's the wrong word to use, but like, he didn't know what else to do, because in a way, like, if he didn't do it, then I think he was gonna be worse off.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, and also I would say somebody who's just severely underrated. Like, he is everything. No matter if the project is good or bad, he is always a shining star. And I think you already know who I'm gonna say is Jesse Plemons. Like, this dude is the GOAT. Like, everything he's in is fucking good. Power of the Dog, terrible movie, great performance. What was that other movie? That weird Netflix movie that he was in. What was?
I Know Things. I think I Know Things. I know the things I don't know. He was good in that too. That was a weird movie.
He was in with Elizabeth Olsen in that show I watched earlier this year.
Yeah, Love and
Death. Breaking Bad, like arguably one of the best characters from Breaking Bad.
I'm thinking of Ending Things. Was the movie we were
Game
referring.
Night. And that's the other
Game Night.
He's in Game.
Game Night was hilarious.
But that's what I mean. Like, he the way he can switch back and forth from something as serious as this, something as serious as he was also in The Irishman as well. He's right. He was in Judas and the Black Messiah. Like, everything he's in is good. I'm such a fan of his, and like, anything, no matter what it is, whatever project he's in, he's gonna do, like, I will 100% watch, just because he's just a phenomenal actor.
Yeah, I think he's great, and like, I clocked it. He didn't enter the movie until about 2 hours in, like, when they started, like, I think like his interaction with Leo was great. Like, when they first walked out the door, and he was like hi, he's like, I'm here to. He's like, what? It was in the trailer too. It was like, what are you here?
I'm here to solve these murders.
The trailer
for what? To see, almost, and it's almost like the anticipation is like, it's almost the way they played it. It's almost like he figured it out the moment that he asked him that question.
Yes, yeah.
It's like, why would you ask me?
Yeah,
like, well, obviously you're the killer, because why would you ask me that way? Like, why else? To find out who did them, dummy.
I'm here for these murders. For what? To see who did them.
Obviously, it's a terrible thing.
Yeah,
that's happening to this community.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, what's your name? Prime suspect number 1. This dummy right here.
He's like, can I speak to your wife? No, she's real sick right now.
How much land? How much land do you own?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen if she dies?
Come back Friday. Come back Friday.
I'm sure.
Friday. All good will be on Friday. But yeah, honest. But just like in general, what a fucked up thing that Robert De Niro, his character, and that whole situation that was going on, of just like honestly, I didn't know anything about this movie, so it took me a minute to realize what was going on, and then that was a through line of just like all these Osage nations, they're just collecting all land. And I think the beginning of the movie did a really good job just showcasing the parallels, or not parallels, but like the like at the beginning of the movie you see them in traditional form, and then they found oil, and then now they're all like high wealth, like
Yeah.
more or less, for lack of a better term, acting like white men, and like
Yeah.
like
And
kind of living in the spoils of what they were able to do, and within that marrying in white. And even we saw that older couple when they're having dinner and all the families were together, and she's like, that one's whiter than the other one, and all that stuff. And like you can see that was a thing. And then even the mother, who was like the most traditional out of all the characters, was like, you're all just marrying white men. You don't, like, she knew what was going on, but there's nothing she can do about it.
Yeah. She's like, you're thinning out our blood. You're ruining our bloodline. Our bloodline is no longer pure. But that actually was another aspect that I wish we would have explored, is like the whole introduction between Leo and his wife is that he was her driver. So just even the whole dichotomy of like the whites serving the Osage as we're, when you think of America during that time, you don't think about that. You think about, quite honestly, you think about the inverse. Like you think about, slavery and just servitude. So it's almost like the issue at that point it's not even that it was race, it's that it was wealth. Wealth. It's that it has and will always be a class and wealth issue. Like that's what drives everything. Like literally, like as much as people want to deny it, money makes the world go round. And then look what money makes people do. Look what happened. Look what unfortunately happened to these people due to their greed, which these families, these men who were married to these women, like their families would have generational wealth. If they had just let their bloodlines continue and like let their lives just live happy lives with their wives and coexist, like these families would still be wealthy, like generationally, probably for I mean, who knows, but for a really long time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting. Like, what would have the inverse of this? Like, if this man hadn't done this, what would that look like? What would that place look like now if those families were able to live as they were? And to grow as they could have grown.
It could have, but also like just what the foresight of what De Niro, who played William Hale, I know I keep referring to him as his actor name, but I can't. Anyway, that what he was able to kind of scheme and plot out. Like he didn't do that himself. Like he didn't marry an Osage woman to take their land. Like I think he had already had it, but he was just either two things. He was either just being racist and didn't want them to have it, or he just wanted more of it. And I think it was a little bit of both in that regard.
He's more of an opportunist.
Yes, exactly. And he exploited that for every penny that it was worth, literally. And like, because he was wealthy enough, he didn't need anything else. He could have just let it be. But also not only that, but he was able to manipulate a lot of people in the town to do that. And whether or not they knew what they were doing or not, but they were, nonetheless, that's what was happening. And like, even like you see that in the perspective of DiCaprio's character. It's like, was he fully in the know of what he was doing? I would like to think that he did and he didn't. I don't know. With his character, for me, I never got a good read on if he knew 100% what he was doing, like that maliciously.
I wonder if that was the point, because because in the beginning, it's in the trailer too, where Robert De Niro, this man did horrible things, so I don't really care to refer to him by name.
That's fair.
He tells him in the beginning to marry an Osage woman. That's like one of the first things he tells him. Because then, his thing is, well, I do love that money. Like, then they go into that. But I do think when he met her, he had already fallen in love with her. And then maybe he thought that his uncle would forget and go away. Like maybe he would just forget about it. But then, you know, he just, one little thing after another, he just slowly pushed him over to the edge until the point where he just couldn't say no anymore. And then he knew that no matter what his uncle asked him, I mean, even in the end, like he went back and forth on whether or not he was going to testify. You know, once they all, I think maybe that's what they were trying to highlight, that he was just easily suggestible. Like no matter what the situation is, like even in the end, like there were no morals. Like he just whatever he was trying to do to survive, and it doesn't matter, it was whatever side was coming out that he saw was coming out on top. Because when he was with the cops and he saw he had no choice, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to testify. And then Brendan Fraser, who randomly showed up in the last act of this movie as the attorney, when him and like a bunch of other angry white men were yelling at him in that house, like then he was like, all right, well, okay, I'm just not going to do it. All right, I just won't do it anymore. I won't testify. Yeah. And then he eventually stood up to him, and then he did testify. But it's like I think the constant back and forth and them even just the way they wrote it and how they showcased his character, I think that it was intentional to show his naivety and how suggestible he was, that it didn't even really matter if he wanted to do it maliciously, is that he was going to get coerced to just do whatever. He was just going to go with the flow.
Right. And in his eyes, maybe he realized that he was just getting coerced by like his uncle. So then when the other people were telling, you're just getting coerced by the government, he's like, well, I guess you're right. I guess that sounds about right. So like, even though they were trying to help him, but one of my favorite lines of the movie was actually from Brendan Fraser when he was talking to Leo, and he just yells at him, he's trying to save you, dumb boy.
Tell you, man, Brendan Fraser is on a come up. Like he is such a phenomenal actor. Like he's just truly underrated. Like even the small part that he played in this, I thought he was great. Fantastic.
Yeah. And he was good. He had a very small role in it. And they even showed him in the trailer, which made him seem like he was going to be bigger than he actually was. Yeah. And at one point, we were getting into like 2 hours into this movie. It's like, when's Jesse Plemons coming up? I feel like he's got to be a big role in this. And obviously he was. But yeah, he was just very easy manipulated. And so it was interesting to kind of see that in a way, because you felt that he cared for it. And then obviously up until the very end, it was the passing of his daughter that kind of really pushed it over the edge for him to really go out and testify against his uncle, even though he wasn't going to do it. And he was willing to sit in jail with him for, I guess, forever. Like, he was in jail with his uncle, just not willing to testify, and therefore they were both going to go to jail, and he was okay with that. I mean, he still went to jail, though, but, but also not, his uncle could have been off free for if he didn't say anything.
And it's just a weird sense of loyalty that he had towards his uncle, as opposed to his wife and children. Mm-hmm. Like I get, but I look at people from back then, and I just like they grew up different. They grew up in a different time. Like sure. I just finished reading. Ironically, I just finished a book about the Comanche Indians, about and what they went through, and like what the actual Wild West went through, like talking about them chopping limbs off and scalping people, and like the raids that they would do. Like this is the times that these older people that they are coming off of. They're the last of like living in the West and morphing into this civilized society. So not that I forgive anything that these horrible people did. It's just like they valued it just seems like they valued family and loyalty different. Like it was more important for Leonardo's character to be loyal to his uncle, to his blood uncle, than it is to his wife, who he has that are literally like his offspring. Like he feels more loyal. Why is that? Like I don't know. Like, but I think maybe that these people, like I look at them like cavemen. Like they grew up in a different time. They think differently. You would almost have to talk to somebody from that time to really understand their way of thinking. Yeah. But, but certain things just don't fly. Like murdering all these people to take their land. Like there's certain things. I'm not justifying it at all. I'm just saying like it's very interesting to me, like the course of actions that took place, especially after he was caught red-handed, and it was like, you're going to jail, like there's no doubt about it. We have the evidence. We know what you did. And even then, he like the constant flipping back and forth. It was just like, what are you doing? Like, everybody already knows. What are you actually doing?
Yeah, which kind of crazy too, because to your point, it's like I feel like Leo wasn't killing people to take over their land. Eventually, that was the end game on that situation. But he was killing people because his uncle told him to.
Yeah.
Like, I think like he didn't do it for any motive that would have benefited him at all. I just didn't think he knew that. Like, he's like, why am I doing this? Oh, because my uncle told me to. He's like, well, okay, that sounds about right. And so I'm just gonna do it. But another key moment in the movie, especially for his relationship with his wife, was that he said, when he referred to the insulin and like the stuff that he was basically slowly poisoning her under the doctor's and De Niro's request, is like, oh, this is just gonna calm her down. Like, but obviously it was poisoning her. And in a weird way, he also he put it in his drink and drank it, and he felt that as well. Maybe in a sense of like he was overwhelmed. So he's like, oh, if this is supposed to calm me down, like it's calming her down, then maybe I can drink that and I'll be calm as well because of all this stuff that's happening. Maybe that was his way of doing it. I thought in a moment he was trying to see if it was actually being poisoned or not. But now that we're talking out loud and seeing how those scenes played out, maybe he was just like, I want some of that slow down juice as well. But it was the moment where she, like, the FBI was able to get her into a proper hospital, properly give her the proper treatments to kind of combat the diabetes. And he said she went up to him, and like they already professed like they still love each other for the most part, like they have that respect. And she goes, and then he testifies, like, did you air out all of the grievances on trial? And he said, yeah, everything. And then I think she might have mentioned, like, and the insulin, was there anything in there? And he goes, nope, nothing to report there. And then that's when he's like, all right, you lied to me.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on from that.
But I think that scene in particular, the one you're talking about, I think that's another call to him being naive, because I think he did. My interpretation is that he did think that it was some sort of calming medicine. But then in that moment when he drank it and him being slightly affected, he realized that, oh, like, these guys really were trying to poison her. Or, I mean, maybe he knew, or he was trying to go out with her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It was a strange thing that wasn't expounded on or wasn't explained. But, it wasn't one of the things that were re-explained 3 or 4 times.
You're right, it wasn't. But what was that character's name? Bucky and the car insurance scandal? Like, that was
something like that.
That was overly explained. Something, yeah. I like the other guy that was like, he was an older gentleman.
He had like 9 kids, and when they came up, it's like, damn it. It's like, as soon as they pulled up, he just goes, dag nabbit. Like, God, what the fuck, man? Like, fine, I'll get in the car. Gee, it's like, I already know what this is about.
He goes, he's like, hey, I need you to kiss. I don't want to kill nobody. I'm not in that game no more. And then, again, another person who was easily influenced by DiCaprio's character. He was just like, just do it. It's like, all right, I'll do it. And like, he didn't.
But I wonder how many people were. So what if that's a testament to the people, like, the outlaws of that time? Like, you really just came up to them and they're like, hey, I know you don't got nothing going on. I know you're looking for some money. We're kind of, money's kind of scarce and food's kind of scarce, but you want to make some money doing some crazy shit? Like, I need you to blow up this house.
Yeah.
Oh wait, did he blow up the house, or he killed?
He didn't blow.
He killed the melancholy guy, which was another aspect that I felt like because you take this man who was, they're meant to be great men in their tribes, and they've been reduced to this civilized society where they're not really doing anything like that, and then we see this man who's battling like what even they call it melancholy, which is basically like that centuries like diagnosed depression. Like, even back then that was even seen as somebody going through depression. Like, why didn't Why didn't we get any of that? Like that would have been. I'm assuming that that was a call to something that was also plaguing the Osage Nation. Like there should have been more focus on what was actually going through the Osage Nation, but telling it through this family that was murdered. This family and this community that was murdered. I felt like the focus was more on the white men committing these atrocities than it was about the atrocities being committed to these people. If that makes sense.
Yes, no, it makes 100% sense because like obviously we started with we had the Osage Nations being traditional, and then finding the oil, and then going into society, and then we intro Leo's character, and then we kind of go on from there. It was like very brief.
Yeah.
We just got there, and that was it. But yeah, and to me, this whole time I'm watching this movie and kind of the pacing of it and everything like that, and eventually I realized like, oh, this is a gangster movie, just
a lot slower.
A Western.
A lot slower.
Yeah, it's a gangster Western movie, a Western gangster.
Yeah, I got that. I got a little bit of that.
Yeah, because it felt to me the pacing was very similar to that, and the way that the movie was presented felt like a gangster film. It's like you have these you have your head boss, and he's commanding all these other people to do these shady things for nefarious reasons, and it's all horrible. And you have this master plan, kind of like a Godfather type figure that's making all these demands for family. In this case, he's doing it for his land. It was just all set in a Western. And I was like, okay, and that I was able to kind of sit with that a little bit better as the movie progressed. I'm like, okay, I just see this as a gangster movie, and then just under a Western setting, and I can understand some of the tactics they were going for, but ultimately the pacing with this movie and the length of it just seemed a little bit unnecessary, and kind of the directions of where they went with certain to your point, they should have focused elsewhere and not repeat the same thing 5 times. So I guess looking at it as far as like an Oscar and award season contention, like I don't think it should go as far as Best Picture, but there's stuff there, but nothing that's like, there's something I can highlight about that movie, but nothing that I can say that I was overly like wowed about, if that makes any sense.
Well, remember, it's like my description. It's Best Picture is the whole meal. That means every little thing is going to be on point. And this thing, I think, because it's I would say out of the big ones, like out of cinematography is there. Directing obviously is there. Writing, not there. I would say that the I would say the writing and the pacing of this film is so even like editing is not there, just because for me there was just too many the highs and lows just weren't there.
But then, like to your point, like
certain performances were there, absolutely
were there. Yes, yeah, performances wise, directing wise. Like, I think just as far as an association, it will probably be nominated for Best Picture.
Probably.
But I don't think we're in the realm of that's where it should be. But I can see it being looked at other categories for the Oscars and other award shows as well as we get there. So we'll see, because also we have to, the hard part is that we're trying to see what kind of stands out. But then right now, we don't see anything that overly stands out, but we're also, when we get to the final nominations, we'll see what it's up against, and maybe within that parameters, it could be the best thing that's nominated.
True, very true.
But for right now, we don't see it as like, we see like some highlights, but I don't see major standouts. That's like overly the top. It's a surefire, like definitely should. I think all of this stuff is, I can see it, and it will most likely be, but nothing that I feel like it should be like, this is 100% where it is, with the exception of maybe some of the performances where it, depending on who it's up against, could stand out in that regard. So with that, Ernesto, your final thoughts?
I think there's a lot to like about this movie. I think obviously the main issue that I have with it is the pacing. But on the positive side, I mean, you're seeing like career performances from De Niro, obviously newcomer Lily Gladstone, who was a knockout, like who's able to stand up there, with DiCaprio, De Niro, like she seems like just as seasoned as actor as anybody. Like where this is, she's destined for great things. Like she was absolutely incredible, and obviously Jesse Plemons, cinematography was there. Just like I said, like, there were certain things I wish they would have focused on more, and certain things I just felt like we didn't need to get over. We didn't need this over exposition and display of.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you there. I feel like as far as giving credit to Martin Scorsese for a director who is 80, almost 81 years old.
Yeah.
He's 80 years right now. Like he can still direct a hell of a
Absolutely.
movie. Like this was a well-made movie. He still got it, people. He's still there. And so like I can give him props for that. But to your point, the writing and the pacing and its long length, I feel like the 3.5 hours wasn't justified. And therefore, it's kind of bringing down the film a lot more than it needs to be. Is that if you just shaved off maybe 30 minutes to an hour of this movie, then I feel like it could have hit a lot stronger when it comes to like being a great film. I thought it was good, well made, well produced. But there were just certain elements there that kind of took me out of it, especially that scene with the whole news radio bit. But like, I can tell in some ways this was like a project that he cared about, obviously because he was in it. But yeah, ultimately there was just something missing to make it a great standout film. But what we did get was a lot of good stuff. Like you said before, the performances between Leo and DiCaprio and Gladstone, I think they would all be in the conversations of Oscar contenders.
Absolutely.
For that. I mean, they typically do for the most, as well, especially for Plemons, DiCaprio, and De Niro. But I'm not. It's hard to tell about winning, but I was invested into their characters through and through, and good thing too, because that was a lot of the movie was on them. But yeah, and then I liked. Yeah, it was good. Like a huge step up from The Irishman, in my opinion, for Martin Scorsese. So. Like, I never saw him as a bad director. I think he just directed a bad movie.
I mean, we know how much you love The Irishman.
I know. I talk about it. I don't really talk about it that much either. But yeah, I think it was an interesting story. It's a story that I think needed to be told on the big screen, and I'm glad that it went to theaters for it. And there was a lot that I was able to take out of it. Obviously, we've been talking about this movie for a while, so we were able to pull some things out of it as well. But at the end of the day, there's some things that it slacked on, and therefore it kind of hindered on our overall experience while watching this movie, primarily with the runtime. But he still got it. 80 years old, he's still kicking, he's still making movies, and I'm on board for the next one.
Me too.
Like he's still there's still something there that he can create that movie magic that and like if anything, I got absorbed into this world very easily. Yes. It was very quick for me just to get into the world that he built. So. Good on him. But yeah, I don't think this is the last time we're going to be talking about this movie, and I think we're going to be talking about it around the award season. And we're just getting head up on this, Ernesto. Yeah. We're just trying to
get ahead of the game.
That's right. But there you go. That's our spoiler review of Killers of the Flower Moon. Go check it out in theaters if you have the time. But I think it's safe to say between you and me,
just wait.
That you can just wait to go on streaming for this one.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think so. But there you go. That's all the show we have for you guys this week. Ernesto, tell our lovely listeners what they look forward to on next episode.
Next week's episode is our Halloween episode. We are going to be reviewing Five Nights at Freddy, and we're going to be joined by a very special guest. First time, a young guest this next time. So tune in next time to see who it is. And for that...
Yes.
Oh, no, you got to do the other thing.
Yeah.
Oops.
Let me do the thing. I was saying. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, same.
Like we had a lot of horror movies to choose from for our Halloween episode, and this one feels like the one that we can. I think this was the most interesting one to dive into.
Yeah, we'll see.
Whether it's good or not, we'll see. But
it's either going to be really good or really bad.
Yeah. I think there's some talent behind it. It has some intrigue to it. It's based on a popular IP, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, if you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, our YouTube, Facebook.
X.
Wait. I screwed it up again. Hold on, I got to start over. If you want more from If you want more from us, you can always follow us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, our YouTube, Facebook, Threads, TikTok page at boxofficebingers, and our X page at boxofficebinger without the S. Man, we're everywhere. We're in a whole bunch of places. I gotta write this stuff down, man, because I keep forgetting every episode. It's like we're on.
What's that app again that we're on? Is that the YouTube and the Instagrams?
Get it together, old man. You know,
I'm the old one here.
You're
not supposed to laugh at that.
It's not funny. It's not.
I'm very sensitive about my age.
Hey, you're young spirited. I
am a child at heart. Obviously, look at this room for those who are watching.
Well, there you go. Thank you for each and every one of you for listening to us talk about this. Just have fun, just talking about movies. Really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt.
Ernesto Santos. See ya.